Right, looks like we are live. A couple minutes late. That's alright. I'm gonna go post stream announcement and then we'll get started. Alright, I'm going to start off on the chill stream layout here, just do a quick intro and get the BGM set up, and then we'll jump over to the tier list layout and get started. Let me double check my sound settings real quick. I'm going to leave it at about 50% for now. Actually, maybe I'll drop it a little lower. We'll see when folks come in. I forgot to save my settings for the playlist for all of the BGM tracks, since we've been using it for a couple streams now. In fact, I'm going to put it about here. I think my mic should be coming in louder. I have the setup kind of jury-rigged through VLC to play my BGM playlist, and it'll just loop. That should be good for now. What matters is that my mic is the most clear. The BGM is just background noise. So to sort of get things started for today, I normally kick off the chill streams with just a real quick bit of channel and or upcoming content news, things that I'm working on. I kind of talked through that stuff already on our last drawing stream a couple days ago. So I don't really have much additional stuff that I wanted to go through today as far as upcoming plans and or things going on news-wise. I'll be posting the stream schedule for next week tomorrow once I figure it out. I think things should be more or less normal. We may be picking up an extra day next week. I have still to figure out my calendar, but I'm thinking about doing 4 streams next week, 4 scheduled streams. But that will go up on Twitter once I figure that out. Alright, what we can do to go ahead and get started is jump over to the tier list layout, and I'll explain what we're going to be ranking first. And I'm going to see if we can get through 3 moderate-sized tier lists today. I am going to have to cut off the stream promptly in 2 hours, so if it looks like we're going to go long on the long side, I may have to drop one of them. Just be sure I've got something I got to run off to. But for the first one, getting started here, this is going to follow on the heels of the fast food discussion that we talked about last chill stream when it came to ranking things. And this is a condiment tier list. And I looked around on the tier maker site because I know I wanted to talk about this, and There were a couple different angles people approached for condiments, and this is more of a generic classification of condiments as opposed to a brand specific condiment list, because if it was brand specific, you probably have 50 items on here, things that are designated by well-known brands or products. So this is a bit more generic. The person who created this one, TC Capitalist, the way they describe it is that it's supposed to be more of a generic classification of types of condiments as opposed to branded things like specific brands or types of hot sauce or whatnot. And I figured that'd be a good place to start. And this would be kind of like our warm-up for the day when it comes to ranking things. In my opinion, there's some stuff on here that's missing, but as far as a real general snapshot of condiments you can put on food, I think this one is pretty comprehensive. So we'll use this as our basis to start off. And the first thing they have on the list here is barbecue sauce. And again, I think this is Sweet Baby Ray's, which is one of my favorite types of barbecue sauce. But again, we're not going by brand specific stuff here. So even though you can see product names, we're going to treat it as a general classification. But barbecue sauce is a good condiment. I wouldn't say I use it on a lot of things that you wouldn't normally put barbecue sauce on, but for grilled food, ribs, that type of stuff, barbecue sauce is pretty good. So I'm going to put that up on B tier. There's a lot of variation when it comes to types and flavors, which is nice. If you want more of a smoky flavor, you can go that way. If you like more of a sweet, like a honey barbecue, or even a spicy barbecue, it's a pretty versatile condiment. So I definitely would rank that one above average towards the upper end of the tier list. Next up, we got one that I knew was going to make it on here in some form, but this is really general, so I'm going to have to rank it accordingly. We have hot sauce, and this is meant to cover the entire spectrum of types of hot sauces. So even Asian hot sauces like sriracha or Korean barbecue sauces. I'm assuming we have to lump those in here since there's no other category in the rest of the tier list for that. But for me, hot sauce is S tier. And I think I've talked about it on stream before, briefly, when it came to food. But I really like spicy food. Sorry, let me turn off my phone. PAX is going on this weekend, so the PAX Twitter thing is blowing up constantly. I'll turn that off so you guys aren't hearing my screaming sheep text notification. But to recap, I'm a big fan of spicy food in general, and over the last year or so, especially since we've been in pandemic mode, I've been experimenting around with a lot of hot sauces. I've mentioned on previous streams that I watched that show on YouTube, Hot Ones, with Sean Evans, where he interviews celebrities and makes them eat spicy wings with different sauces on them. And I've tried a bunch of the Hot Ones featured sauces from their website, which is a pretty comprehensive place to go shopping for hot sauces if that's your thing. And as a result, I found a lot of good ones that were on the site. So between generic hot sauces and even things like Tabasco or Tapatio, and this is Frank's Red Hot, I think. These pictures are kind of blurry, so I'm gonna have to try and make them out the best I can. But yeah, I put hot sauce on almost everything I eat, which is gonna probably segue well into the next condiment on the list, the truly controversial take when it comes to ranking condiments, ketchup. And for me, I talked about this on the fast food tier list, and I got roasted for it, but I don't like ketchup. not really cared for it for a long time. I don't eat it on things. Burgers, fast food, and whatnot, French fries. I don't do ketchup. That being said, I'm not going to put it on F tier because ketchup is versatile in that, in addition to just being a condiment, it makes for a good cooking ingredient. If a recipe calls for ketchup in like a sauce or some other component, that's fine. Usually I can't pick the flavor out and it adds to whatever it is you're cooking. So as an ingredient, ketchup is serviceable. If it's me personally, I'll usually go for things like tomato-based sauces than straight ketchup since I don't own any. But because you can use it in a lot of things, I can't put it down here at F tier. And looking at the tier list, I'm going to have to make an executive decision on one of them. But we'll get there in a little bit. But I understand putting ketchup down here this low is going to be a controversial take. And that's fine. I understand it's weird. On the topic of fast food, when we were talking about the fast food tier list, for me, my favorite condiment for French fries and even burgers and stuff like that is hot sauce. We'll go ahead and move on. Next on the list, this is an interesting choice for a condiment, but it makes sense that they would include it. We have maple syrup. And to me, because maple syrup is more of a breakfast type of condiment, I don't know, maybe if any of the Canadian folks swing by, I can ask them, but for maple syrup, it's good on breakfast foods, things like pancakes, waffles, and whatnot. So I'm going to put maple syrup here on B tier. I don't know how normal it is to put that on other types of food, but it's a sweet complement to something, so I can't imagine it'd be bad. And you can use maple syrup in a lot of recipes as a cooking ingredient. So it's versatile, and I do like sweet things. Yeah, maple syrup, we're going to go up here. I'm probably going to drop a little further down because for me it's mostly just breakfast stuff I could see putting it on, but you probably use it in place of things like honey. And I don't see honey on here. That's a shame. You would think that'd be considered a condiment. I would probably put honey on A tier if it was on here, but for maple syrup, yeah, good stuff. Next up, this one is an interesting choice. I'm not exactly sure why they put it on here, but this is pasta sauce. So spaghetti sauce, pasta / spaghetti sauce, looking at the jar of Prego. I'd never really considered pasta sauce as a condiment. I always considered them a component or an ingredient in a pasta dish. So it is weird that they would consider it a condiment, unless you're looking at instances where people put pasta sauce on other things, which I guess could be a thing. Maybe thinking like breadsticks or cheese bread and from pizza joints where you have like the marinara pasta sauce that you dip it in. That being said, I think it's passable, so I'm going to put that on C tier. Again, if we're talking about pasta sauces as an ingredient for dishes and cooking, then to me it'd be ranked much higher. But I'd never buy store-bought pasta sauces to use as a condiment for things. I think I've probably mentioned it before in previous streams, but when it comes to stuff like pasta sauces, I make my own. I picked up some really good recipes for red and white sauces when I worked in my last job in the kitchen. So unless it's for something specific that I want to use as an ingredient, I don't really buy the stuff off the shelf. It's just because it tends to turn out better if you have control over the ingredients. And you can definitely cut down on things like sodium and whatnot from the store-bought products if you make it yourself. But given they don't have like Alfredo sauce in here, I'm assuming they just mean buying this stuff to use as like a dip or to dip stuff in, which I guess I could see it. Not really my thing, but sure. Put it on C tier for now. Next up, this may be one of the first polarizing entries on here. I don't know. I'll have to see as we go down the tier list. We got mayonnaise. And I understand mayonnaise is kind of a hot topic for some. Some people like it. Some people really don't like it. Some people are in the middle. I think mayonnaise is fine. I primarily use that as a condiment for sandwiches or burgers more than anything else. Occasionally, some recipes will call for mayonnaise. It's pretty versatile. I understand the taste can be kind of strong for some people, but it pairs well with a lot of foods. It's a good complement. I'll put mayonnaise here. Again, I'm thinking of it primarily as a sandwich condiment, but you can put it on other stuff too. It's fine. Next one on here, this is the one that I was having to give some second thoughts on. We have mustard. And again, these are classifications of mustard. This isn't a product mustard. Like, this is French's yellow mustard on here in the picture. And last time on the fast food tier list, I mentioned that I don't like yellow mustard. Yellow mustard and ketchup are two condiments that I don't do. I don't like the taste of yellow mustard. It just has kind of an artificial tanginess that I don't like. That being said, if you broaden the category to other types of mustard besides just this product, and this product specifically is the one I'm talking about that I don't like, I like honey mustards. In fact, honey mustards, Dijons, and everything like that, stone ground mustards, I think are great. They're good on sandwiches, they're good on burgers. They're really, really versatile for a lot of reasons. So, that being said, for mustards in general, I'm putting those on A tier. But that's with a big caveat, and then I'm not putting French's mustard on A tier. I'm putting everything else that's not French's mustard on A tier, since I do use them on a lot of food. Like a good spicy mustard, or hot honey mustard. That's good stuff. So, if anyone is referring to this later and wondering why I'm putting one of my most detested types of ingredients on here, it's because mustard as a category is more than just this product. Next up, at first I thought this was pickles, and I don't see pickles on here, which again, that's a crying shame. Then I thought it was relish, but relish is over here, so I had to actually look really closely at it, and it's pesto. And this is like a basil pine nut pesto. It's green, as opposed to like a sun-dried tomato pesto or a roasted red pepper. And I never thought of pesto as a condiment. That's an interesting idea. Oh hey, what's up, Penguin Party? At work, and just came to say hi. Hey man, thanks for stopping by, however brief. I hope you're having a good day at work. Hopefully it's not too busy. I think you said you work at a hospital or in medical, something like that. Hopefully it's not too hectic over there. But yeah, thanks for dropping by. Always appreciate seeing you on stream. All right, back to pesto. Thinking about pesto as a condiment to me is a little bit more relevant than this one here in red sauce, because I've heard of putting pesto in things like salads, using it as a topping for sandwiches and other things, in addition to just straight pasta. So I'm going to put pesto up here on B tier. This is an ingredient or a condiment that I need to learn how to make. Apparently it's not hard. You just need a lot of fresh basil, olive oil, Parmesan, pine nuts. I'm actually growing a basil plant right now, so once it gets a little bit bigger, maybe I can use it for that. But I like the flavor of this type of pesto. It's good. It's useful in a lot of things. You can use it as a marinade too. It's a good condiment. In fact, I'd probably put it above barbecue sauce, because I could think of more things that I would cook and use it on. So we'll put it up here. Next up, we've got ranch dressing. And there's a couple types of dressing on here, but I don't see a general salad dressing category. Which is kind of weird because you'd think of salad dressing as one of the most generic types of condiments there is. But they have it separated out by types because this is ranch and blue cheese is over here. I don't know what this one is. I'm trying to look at the screen and see. Again, it looks like a craft product. I thought this one was ranch first. Then I thought it was mayonnaise. But unless they have two different brands of mayonnaise, that doesn't seem right. Let me see if I can look up. Let me see if I can figure out what that is just by looking at some quick Google images. Oh, it's tartar sauce. Okay, alright, we can rank that. We'll get there. Let's do ranch dressing first. When it comes to ranch as a general condiment, on salads, I don't typically put ranch on my salads. If I'm out at a restaurant and they have a side salad or something with dressing, usually I'll go vinaigrettes. And there's no vinaigrettes on here. Again, there's no salad dressings in general. Ranch is not my first choice when it comes to condiments or salad dressing, but it's okay. I don't dislike it. It's just not my first choice. So I'm going to put it on upper C tier. When it comes to dipping things in ranch, like vegetables or hot wings or something, that's not generally my thing. But I can see it, so I'm going to put it over here. It's not a high tier condiment for me. Next up, we've got Relish. And this is the only pickle-based condiment on here. Which again, that's a shame because I like pickles. My favorite type of pickles for things like sandwiches are bread and butter pickles. Dills are good too, and sweet pickles are fine, but bread and butter is my favorite. But relish, I don't really eat. So I'm going to put it on C tier. If it's in something, I usually won't notice. It's fine. But it's not something I'd go out of my way to put on food. I'd much rather just have straight up pickles than relish. Next on the list, we've got salsa. And this is the Tostitos brand, but this is just salsa in general as a condiment. Salsa's great. When it comes to Hispanic food, dips, nachos, everything like that. Salsa goes good on a lot of things. It's a very versatile condiment. I'm going to put it up here on A tier. The caveat I'd say here is it's better when it's made from scratch. I don't have a good recipe for salsa, but I know people who make it from scratch with things like tomatoes, and it's one of the few foods that I'll eat cilantro in. But fresh made salsa, and especially spicy hot salsas or tomatillo salsas, those are great. And they're good in a lot of different types of food. So that's going up here. Next up for condiments, the first Asian one on the list here looks like we have soy sauce. And when it comes to soy sauce as a condiment, this one is interesting because it really depends on your personal taste for what you put soy sauce on. But if you're thinking traditionally in Asian cuisine, there's a lot of stuff that pairs with soy sauce and all sorts of different Asian cuisine, right? You've got things like Chinese or Taiwanese dumplings that are usually dipped in a mix of soy sauce and vinegar and ginger. You've got sushi. nigiri or rolls in Japanese cuisine that's dipped in soy sauce or it's paired with that. In addition to being a complementary ingredient, soy sauce is very versatile when it comes to cooking. I know we're talking more as a condiment, but when it comes to how I would rank these in their usefulness, I'm factoring in cooking as well since I think it's relevant. So I'm going to put soy sauce up here on S tier. And for me personally, this is just again, personal preference, but I don't put soy sauce as a straight up condiment on a lot of stuff. I know for some folks, it's pretty common for people to put soy sauce on plain rice, like white rice. I don't do that. I think that's personally kind of gross, since rice is meant to be a complementary dish, and drowning rice in soy sauce, if that's your thing, then no shade, but I personally don't do that. But it complements a lot of other dishes really well, and it's great to cook with. So soy sauce is going up here. I had a friend of mine in Earth School who's one of his favorite snacks essentially was like a bowl of rice just drenched in soy sauce, and I never understood why. But that's your thing? All right. Next up, we've got steak sauce. This is A1, which is the kind of most generic known brand of steak sauces. And this is going to be like kind of a Worcestershire, tangy, a bit salty, savory sauce. Steak sauce is fine. I don't put it on my own steaks personally, but it's good on other things. I'm going to put steak sauce as a general condiment up here on B tier below mayonnaise. I can't remember the last time I bought a bottle or put it on something, but I do like the Worcestershire flavor of things like A1. For me personally, on things like steaks, I don't normally put sauces on my steaks unless they're marinated or something like that. I do like herb butter on steaks or just straight up seasoning. To me, if you season a steak really well, it shouldn't need a sauce. But on other things, A1's fine. Next up, this is the one I had to Google. This is tartar sauce. Tartar sauce, to me, it's good, but it's very situational. I can only think of a few things I would normally eat tartar sauce on, and usually it's some sort of fried seafood. Things like fish and chips, or fried shrimp, or something like that. So to me, it sort of narrows down the scope of what you would use this particular sauce for. That being said, it's fine. I don't have a problem with tartar sauce, so I'm going to put it up here on upper C tier. It's just such a specific type of food or type of condiment that I would use. I would never go out and buy a bottle of tartar sauce unless I was making a whole bunch of like fish and chips for company or something. It's not an ingredient that'd be in my fridge normally because I wouldn't eat it on a whole lot of stuff. But it's fine. Next up, I was wondering if this tier list was going to include this particular product. And I don't know why I guess it's technically a separate type of product. This is Miracle Whip. Miracle Whip to me fills the same role as mayonnaise, but it's made differently. It's got slightly different ingredients. I want to say it doesn't have eggs in it. Let me see and look it up. Oh, here we go. The difference between mayonnaise and Miracle Whip. Is this an article? Oh, no, it does have the same ingredients as regular mayonnaise. I'm reading this off a site here. Eggs, soybean oil, vinegar, more spices and additional ingredients. So it's a different flavor, a different flavor profile. Sweeter, spicier, almost acidic taste in mayonnaise. Okay, so similar type of product, but a different ingredient base. That being said, I think Miracle Whip's gross. I've tried it. I don't like it. It just has a weird off taste to me. So I'm putting it down here on F tier. It's not a product I would ever buy, and I can't think of a recipe I've ever seen that calls for it. And that may be driven by the fact that I just prefer the taste of regular mayonnaise. But yeah, I've tried the product, not a fan. I think it tastes weird. But if you like Miracle Whip, that's fine. Next up, we have vinegars. And this one is an interesting choice of inclusion on a condiment tier list. But I guess I could sort of see it because, like I talked about before, you have things like Taiwanese dumplings, which have an Asian vinegar that's paired with the soy sauce for dipping sauce. And in other things like Italian food or salads or things like even fish and chips with that kind of malted vinegar. Guess there are a lot of things you use as a condiment for. And of the different vinegars, my favorite's balsamic. By far, because of how versatile it is. Balsamic vinaigrettes are one of my favorite types of things to put on salads. And it's really easy to make a simple scratch balsamic vinaigrette. So I'm going to put vinegars up here on upper B tier. The reason why it's not on A is just because it's a little bit more specific in its use. And I use vinegar in cooking more than as a straight up condiment. So if I were to balance that out, I put it somewhere in the upper section of the pack. Like if I was talking about balsamic vinaigrette specifically, that would probably go up here on S tier. But since this is just vinegars in general, I'm going to put it down here. Now this one, I'm having trouble reading the label on this. I can't tell what it is. It almost looks like it's a Heinz product. Let me see if I can try and Google this one and look it up. I want to say it's like a browning sauce. Let's see. Oh, no. That's not specifically the product. I see some stuff here in the list that's similar. It could be a browning sauce. It's just really hard to read. If we use that as, if we just make the assumption this is like a browning sauce, I'm going to put it up on C tier. Put it down here just because it's not something I use. It's more of an ingredient in things than a condiment. It's either a browning sauce or it's some sort of oil. It looks like the word down here says oil, but I can't read it, so I'm just going to have to make an assumption there. We'll go ahead and move on. Next up on the list, we have blue cheese. And this is blue cheese dressing doubling as a dipping sauce or condiment for the sake of the tier list here. This one's also kind of polarizing, I think, because blue cheese is a very, very acquired taste. It's strong. It's got kind of a musty, noticeable, pungent flavor. And I don't normally like blue cheese on stuff. To me, it kind of overpowers things whenever it's on something. But every once in a while, it'll kind of fit nicely. And I'll eat it every once in a while. It's not a super common topping for me, but I also don't dislike it. I'm going to put it on low C tier. Like, I've tried dipping wings in blue cheese. To me, that's not really that good. As a salad dressing, kind of meh to me. But I've had stuff with like a blue cheese topping. It's okay. Again, I don't dislike it, but I have to kind of be in the mood for something like that. And I get the feeling a lot of these cheese ones are kind of in that same boat. Next up, we have another. This is the only dessert type one on here. I guess so. We have chocolate sauce, chocolate syrup. Now, if you're going to venture in the realm of dessert-based condiments, makes me wonder why they would include stuff like maraschino cherries or whipped cream or other types of dessert condiments, because there's a whole bunch. Even something like honey, to me, would be a condiment. So this isn't a necessarily comprehensive list. This is more of a generic condiment list, I guess. Chocolate syrup, to me, is fine. I don't really consume it, but on desserts, things like ice cream and whatnot, it's fine. I'm going to put it down here in B tier, just because it's not super common outside of desserts, I think. Maybe there's people out there who put Hershey syrup on their fries or something, but for just general use, chocolate syrup, it's fine. Use to make chocolate milk. Next up, we've got horseradish. I had to double check this one too. I'm pretty sure that's what that says. You can tell by the long name on the label. And I imagine horseradish is going to be a bit polarizing when it comes to condiments too, just because it's spicy. It's very strong in flavor, and it'll go right up your nose. It's basically the Western equivalent of wasabi. And I know most off-the-shelf wasabis you buy are essentially just dyed horseradish root that's been pasted, versus traditional wasabi, which is an actual plant root wasabi plant that's grated. And apparently it tastes different, but I've never been to Japan to try it, so I don't know. But regular horseradish sauce is fine. I'm going to probably put it up here after barbecue sauce, primarily because my favorite thing to put horseradish on is beef-based dishes like prime rib. I don't normally eat that with steak, just regular steaks, but like a good roasted prime rib pairs really well with a nice spicy horseradish sauce. And to me, that's top tier. So even though I don't eat horseradish on a lot of things, the stuff that I do eat it on is really good to me. So it'll go up here. You can also mix it in a lot of stuff to sort of give kick to other dishes or sauces. So it's got some versatility as well. But because I like spicy stuff, it's going to rank high. Next up, rounding out the list, we have a couple of Asian ingredients. This one is hot chili oil. And again, if we're thinking classification of sauces and condiments, not specific products, that this does kind of cover a range of things in Asian food. So hot chili oil, in my experience, is typically used as a complementary condiment, kind of like soy sauce. I know at a lot of Taiwanese dumpling places, they'll give you like this chili oil on the side to also put in your food or dip your stuff in. Things like dim sum joints, you see the same thing as well. In fact, most Asian restaurants, if they're reputable, be they Chinese, that's common in Japanese places, I think, Korean, Vietnamese, you'll see these jars of hot chili oil usually sitting on your table. And that's a good mark of a reputable joint if they've got the chili oil on hand. But lumping into this category of products, I think Lao Gan Ma, the spicy chili crisp, would also be considered in this classification. And that stuff's great. I just recently discovered that Lao Gan Ma spicy chili crisp in the last year. And I use that stuff for a lot now as a garnish, just an ingredient in cooking. and just in general. So chili oil is going up on S tier. In fact, I'm going to put that higher than soy sauce just because it's more of a complementary condiment that I could see on a lot of things, versus soy sauce, while good, is very salty, so you're going to get a salty flavor. Chili oil is good for just heat, a complementary heat. Again, spicy stuff is my jam, so it's going to be up here pretty high. And finally, I had to look at the packaging on this one too, because it's a little unclear. It's kind of a blurry picture. But this is Pickled Ginger. This is typically seen in, again, Asian cooking. But for me, the most common use is at sushi places. Like the thinly sliced pickled ginger, and you get alongside wasabi usually for sushi orders. And it's good. It's meant to be kind of a palate cleanser if you get it more freshly made as opposed to in a jar. It tends to have kind of a sweet, a little bit of a spicy kick from the ginger, but it's meant to cleanse the palate in between things like orders of sushi and types of nigiri and whatnot. So I'm going to put this one up here on high B tier. Outside of Asian cuisine, and specifically sushi, I don't think I'd ever really use this product for anything. But on the stuff that I do eat it on, I think it's good. So I'm going to put ginger here. And so I think that'll do it for condiments. Just like some of the other ones we've seen, I seem to skew more heavily towards B, middle upper tiers for stuff. And that may just be because I don't have a lot of strong opinions on some of these. There's not a lot that I'm ranking low. In fact, this one right here, putting ketchup on D tier, is probably the most controversial hot take here. And that's driven by the fact that I just don't like ketchup. I don't know how many diehard Miracle Whip fans are out there. I'm sure I'll find out once I post this. But again, there's some stuff on here that's missing. I think there could be some other entries on here to sort of round out the functionality of condiments. Again, no pickles is very strange to me that it's not on here. But for sauces and everything else, I think it's functional. Sliced jalapenos, those aren't on here either. Yeah, I'm going to save this one, and then maybe... I said I was going to post these on Twitter, and I haven't started doing that yet. I have to go collect all the ones we've done previously, and then maybe I'll start doing that at some point. What we can do is move on to the next one that I wanted to cover in today's chill stream. Like I mentioned, I want to do potentially 3 of them. We'll see how long this next one takes. If this one runs long, then I may have to move the next one into the future stream. But I did talk about this last time, and I mentioned it on Twitter a while back. So I'm going to jump over to the next one. And let's see, we go into presentation mode. This is an alcohol tier list, and I scoured the tier site for some sort of fairly comprehensive type of alcohol list that I could actually speak to. And there were some really generic ones, there were some really specific ones, and what I settled on was this one here. And the reason why the don't drink thing is so wide is because, one, there's a lot of duplicates. It was like in triplicate for some reason on here. The actual tier list of things I'm going to be ranking is these ones down here. I'm going to actually just delete this list and clear it out so the list isn't so huge. But there's a handful of products on here that I have never tried. So I'll speak to that first, then I'm going to delete this and shrink it down. And the actual things I'm going to rank are down here. And I will caveat this particular tier list because I feel like I need to in saying that only drink alcohol if you're of legal age in your respective countries, and please drink responsibly. I feel like that needs to be said whenever talking about stuff like this. Be responsible if you're going to enjoy alcohol. Don't be dumb. All right, let's look at the list of stuff that I put into here because there are some things I've never tried. But a good majority of the stuff here is just duplicates from down here. I will say the majority of the stuff on here is hard alcohol, hard liquor. And the main reason for that is because you see here I don't drink beer. I've never had a taste for beer. I think beer is gross personally. And I've had quite a few people I know, since like craft and artisan beers are kind of popular where I live. I've had people try and introduce me to the quote unquote good beers, like microbrews and stuff. I just don't like the taste of them. I've tried. I've made a lot of people really angry with my opinions on beer. But this is like generic Budweiser. But in general, beers aren't going to rank anywhere because I don't drink them. And this is a type of wine. I don't know what brand it is. I've seen it on the shelf. I just don't know what it is. I don't drink wine either. And like beer, since wine is also popular where I live, I have made a lot of people really upset with my opinions on wine too. I just never had a taste for it. To me, it tastes like sour grape juice. My brother really likes wine, so he and I have also had exchanges of opinions on that. Hey, what's up, Fearful Milk? I haven't seen you in a while, man. How you doing? We're dipping into the realm of degeneracy and ranking alcohol in this particular tier list. I'm just doing my disclaimer at the beginning for stuff that I'm not going to be putting on here. But hope you're doing well, man. Yeah, I understand wine's a big thing, so if you're a wine connoisseur, then you're probably not going to see much of interest here on this tier list. There's a bunch of brands of product here that I don't know. This is Smirnoff Ice. These are like wine cooler type things. I've never had these before. Ah, I see. Fearful Milk says, been a while, got college. I was going to say that this tier list would be relevant if you're a college student, but if you don't drink in general, then everything would be in this tier. And there's nothing wrong with that, man. I would say if you're of the legal drinking age and you want to try stuff, that's fine. And if you decide that you don't like it, that is perfectly fine too. You can go out there and hang out with people and have a good time and never feel pressured to drink. Some of the stuff on here, again, it's product that I've never tried, but for okay, Fearful Milk, I only drink pear cider, really. I'm 19, so I can drink. You must be in Europe if the legal drinking age is 19. I live in the States, and it's 21 here. But pear cider, it's funny you mentioned that. I was going to talk about this for this tier list. This is not a straight hard liquor tier list. It's just alcohol in general, and this was one of the few ones I found that had a lot of stuff that I could even rank. But one of my favorite things to drink that's not hard, if we're talking about things that are in bottles and whatnot, that's not, hard alcohol. One of my favorite things is hard ciders. And in my particular area here in the States, hard ciders were really popular for a while. Now it's hard seltzers, which those aren't on here either. And things like White Claws and whatnot just kind of become like the basic kids trying to drink alcohol drink, which is funny. But I do like hard seltzers, but hard cider I think is fantastic. There's a couple brands of hard ciders, and you mentioned pear. One that I really like is called Fox Barrel, and I haven't seen that on the shelf in a minute, but that one is like a blackberry pear cider, and it's really good. But if I'm out there and I don't feel like drinking something hard or a cocktail, I'll usually get a hard cider so I can be drinking something out of a bottle with other people and not look like a weirdo. But yeah, that's not even on this tier list, because I would rank hard ciders up here on S tier. It's good stuff. Milk says, in England, drinking age is 16. Ah, okay. If it was beerless, the only beer is ginger beer, non-alcoholic. Ah, that makes sense. Ginger beer is really good in a couple different cocktails. Ginger beer is one of the main ingredients of Moscow Mules, which are great. This is not a cocktail list. I'm still trying to find one of those that I can rank. But of the major types of hard liquor, again, we talked about beer and wine. I won't harp on it. The only other type of alcohol I don't actively drink is gin. And Hendrick's, Seagram's, Bombay Sapphire. I don't think Beef Eater's on here. There's a lot of noteworthy major brands for gin. I don't like gin. I can't drink it. It tastes like pine needles to me. And I know some people who really like gin. One of my old friends from back in the day swore by gin and tonics, and he tried to get me to like them. Couldn't do it. Don't like gin. Just any other type of alcohol, hard alcohol, I'll find a way to tolerate, but I can't do gin. Some of the stuff on here is, again, stuff I just haven't tried, but I would if I had the chance. Like, this is Johnny Walker Black Label, I think. I've heard that's really good. The upper level labels of things like Walker, I know some people really like. I just never had a chance to try it. For hard alcohol, and this is probably going to date me a little bit, which is fine. I am more of a sipping alcohol person. I do not really do shots unless I happen to be out, and because it's still pandemic times, you can't really go to bars now, or even clubs or whatnot. So there's not really a whole lot of conducive environments for shots, and I'm not going to sit here and do shots at home. So you'll probably see me reiterate a couple times, and this isn't like a sipping alcohol tier list, but a lot of stuff I enjoy tend to be a little more expensive, but they're things that you just kind of chill and enjoy. You don't pound for the sake of getting messed up. Milk says, I'm half Irish, but my taste buds hate alcohol a lot of the time. I only have it with food. Yeah, that's fair. I think a lot of good pairings for alcohols are in conjunction with food too. I know wine and meats pair well. Oh, there's no sake on here. I was going to say, of things that are considered actual wines, if you were to consider sake a wine because it's rice wine, sakes and sojus would fall in that category technically. I'd probably list them out separately, but they're not on here. I love sake. Sake's fantastic. Have discovered some really good brands that are imported from Japan that are really good in general, chilled, and pair well with things like sushi. So that's not even on here on this list. It's a shame. All right, let me see if I can delete this. I should see if I can find a sipping alcohol tier list. That's going to be a lot more specific. I get the feeling I'd have to make my own for that, since I have to track down product images for all the stuff that I like. That's not the purpose of stuff here. This is going to be a bit more generic. And it's a mix of known products and types. So I'm just going to rate these based on my experience with them. So we'll go ahead and get started. The first one on the list here is Sailor Jerry's Rum. And looking at the different types of hard alcohol, if we think of the major ones like vodka. I'm trying to keep track here. Vodka, tequila, whiskey / scotch, rum. There's maybe 4 or 5 main quote-unquote types. I'm looking at the list here in liqueurs. Of those major types, my favorite is rum. And I have a lot of recommendations for good sipping rums. None of them are on here, so this is going to be a lot more generic. But Sailor Jerry's is fine. I'm going to put it up here on B tier. Sailor Jerry's is kind of more of a Caribbean rum. It's dark. And a lot of the stuff on here is going to be primarily used as a mixer. So that's how I'm going to kind of rate them. I don't think I'd ever go and just get a thing of Sailor Jerry's on the rocks. In fact, I don't know if I've ever even tried it straight up. But it does mix well with things. You could put it in stuff like rum and cokes or Mai Tais. So that's fine. Next up, we've got Crown Royal, which is Canadian whiskey. I may have to Google some of these to make sure I'm saying accurate information. Yeah, Canadian whiskey. Crown Royal is gross. I have tried it. I have a long time ago tried shooting it. To me, it tastes like burning. And it does not have a distinct flavor to me other than burning. No offense to all my Canadian friends who may be watching this later. But for the base Crown Royal, and I think there's different tiers. I've only ever tried like the normal regular tier one. To me, the coolest thing about it are those purple felt bags that they come in. I don't even know if they still do that anymore, but yeah, that's a low tier for me. Next up, Southern Comfort. Southern Comfort is either a bourbon or a whiskey. Let's see. Whiskey liqueur. Oh, interesting. Whiskey liqueur. All right. I would have assumed that was a bourbon or whiskey straight up. But Southern Comfort's fine. I'd actually rate that higher than Sailor Jerry's just because I know I can drink Southern Comfort on the rocks. It tends to be a bit more smooth. Kind of a mix of flavors. Less smoky compared to whiskeys and whatnot. I don't actually own any of this, but I've had it. It's good. Milk says, I would put gin in D tier. You're more generous than me. If I don't drink gin at all, so I put it in the I don't drink tier that I deleted. But if I had to rank it somewhere, it'd be on F tier. And I realize that's probably a seriously hot take for gin fans, but that's fine. I know people who can't drink rum and people who can't drink vodka, so it comes down to personal tastes. My problem with gin is the flavor is just so distinct. Even if I have it in a cocktail or mixed, I just taste it over everything else. It's kind of like cilantro to me. My taste buds just must be wired in a way where if gin is in something, it's all I taste. And it immediately ruins the drink for me. Milk says, I'm more on the bitter and sour side of flavor. Okay. For bitter, well, there's literal bitters, but for sour, you might like things like a tart type drinks, like a lemon drop's pretty good. It tends to be more sweet than sour. But yeah, I can understand that. Sidecar, you might like a sidecar. Sidecar is cognac is the main thing in that. It's like a lemon. Lemon main flavor, cognac, orange liqueur, like a Cointreau, lemon juice, orange twist, Yeah, that's one of my favorite cocktails. I haven't had a good sidecar in forever. And that's an old-timey cocktail. A lemon drop is going to be more sweet, kind of more almost syrupy. A sidecar is going to be a little more complex because it has cognac in it. You're going to get a bit more of a bitterness to it. Yeah. Milk says, I love lemons and limes. You can tell I'm from England. Yeah, again, I'm not trying to tell people to drink here. That's not the point. But you already said you're of legal age where you live. So if you're ever at a reputable bar and you want to try a cocktail that might be in line with what you're talking about, I recommend trying a sidecar. And if you Google sidecar, you can see what's in it. Basically cognac, some sort of orange liqueur, lemon juice, lemon zest, like an orange peel on top. All right. Next up, we've got Smirnoff Vodka. This is just base Smirnoff Vodka. Where am I going to put you? I like vodka a lot, but vodka is almost always meant to be paired with stuff. If I'm ever in a situation where I have to shoot something, again, I don't like shots. For me, shots are a little less economical, and you're really only doing that to get wasted. But if I gotta shoot anything, I'll usually lean towards vodka because it's most neutral. Shooting whiskey is no fun. Shooting tequila, if it's the right kind, is alright. But Smirnoff is kind of mid to low tier for me. It's interesting in that vodka, I've noticed, as you move up the tier lists of quality and price, usually, the only real difference in vodka isn't the flavor. It's how much it burns. The more expensive upper shelf vodkas are still going to taste like vodka, but they're going to be smoother and easier to drink and less burny. You're not going to get a complex mix of flavors like a whiskey or a Scotch or a cognac. So it's really like a cleanliness taste to it. And Smirnoff to me tastes like fire most of the time, but it's okay. It's passable. To me, the economical choice for vodka, and it's not on here as far as I can tell. I don't know what this is. There will be some stuff I may have missed on that I did not try. But Tito's vodka. My younger brother really likes Tito's. And his go-to drinks Tito's and soda with lime. Tito's is great. It's economical. It's actually really cheap. And it blows a lot of the other really cheap vodkas out of the water, which is crazy to me. But that's a good one. Milk says, I can never have shots. Going from pear cider to taking a shot of 15% alcohol will hurt my throat. Well, if it's hard alcohol, typically, it's not going to be 15%. 15% is like a strong wine or a sake. Ciders tend to be, depending on where you're getting them, between like 7 to 10-ish percent alcohol. Hard alcohol is usually 40 and up, 40% and up. Like if you're doing a shot of vodka, that's 40%. Whiskey, about the same. Some other types of whiskeys and whatnot will be between 40 and 50. But yeah, if you're going from like a regular just hard cider, again, maybe about 7 or 8 at the most, to a shot. Oh, ciders you have about 2.5%. Okay, so let's say 2.5% to a shot of vodka milk. You'd be going from 2.5 to 40. So, yeah, keep that in mind in case someone asks you to do shots, because that's an uphill acceleration. You need to be careful. It's one of the reasons why I don't like shots. But we're going to get to more vodkas on the list here that are going to rank in different spots. And it's actually the next one on the list. Grey Goose. Grey Goose is upper tier, upper shelf vodka. It's going to be more expensive per fifth or per any amount. Compared to Smirnoff and the lower tier, more economical vodkas, Grey Goose is much more expensive. But it's also a lot cleaner. I could drink Grey Goose on the rocks. It's kind of steep, so I wouldn't do that. But flavor-wise, it has some of the least amount of burn of any of the vodkas I've tried. So it's good. It's a good mixer and things if you really want to use an expensive ingredient, but it's fine. One of my favorite types of vodka isn't on the list here, but it's a product that comes from Hawaii, and it's called Ocean Vodka. And their promo thing is that it's made from like Hawaiian artesian well water or something like that. But it's fairly cheap. I think it's maybe around $24 American. And for being a relatively inexpensive vodka by the fifth, it's very clean tasting, and for some reason it tastes sweet to me. In fact, I can show you guys. I keep forgetting that I'm in browser. Organic vodka. It looks like this. You guys can see my screen here. It comes in this glass slanted bottle. It's leaning to the side from the way it's blown, but it looks like a mana potion. And obviously their whole promo thing is that it's Hawaiian, right? But it's really good. And I forget who recommended I try this, but it's usually my go-to for vodkas just because it's a lot cheaper than Goose and it burns considerably less. Not really much at all, but compared to things like, we'll get to some of the cheap ones like Absolute, Ocean is a lot more clean and doesn't burn. So this is a good one. I'd recommend people try this one, and it mixes really well also. Ocean vodka and things like a Moscow Mule, pretty top tier. If this one was on the list, it would rank probably in the A or, yeah, probably upper A tier. And the bottle looks really neat. Makes a cool decoration as well. I'm not really the person who likes to keep empty bottles for decoration, with the exception of a couple really fancy looking ones that I've bought. In general, when my liquor bottles are empty, I will just recycle them. But yeah, this is a good one. Next up, we've got Maker's Mark. Now, Maker's Mark is a bourbon, right? Yeah, Kentucky bourbon. Making good use of the Googles today. Maker's Mark kind of fits in a similar category to Southern Comfort. A lot of their gimmick for their marketing is that the tops of the bottles are dipped in like a wax or like a rubber seal. Maker's is fine. I think I'd probably rate it a little bit low below Southern Comfort because it's not quite as smooth, but it's also pretty cheap. Usually cheap bourbons will light your mouth on fire, but Maker's is fine. You could throw it on the rocks and it sips perfectly fine too. I don't own any, but if I had the chance to drink it, I wouldn't turn it down. Next up, we got Jagermeister. And Jaeger is very interesting. Is this considered a liqueur? Let's find out. Oh, can't even spell it right. German digestive made at 56 herb. I don't think that's technically a liqueur. I do know that I don't like it, so I'm going to put Jaeger down here on D tier. I've never tried Jaeger bombs because I don't want to torture myself. But I don't like licorice, and to me, Jaeger has a strong licorice taste to it. It's not going to rank high on my list because of that specifically. And I to my memory, I haven't tried it mixed in stuff as well. I understand it's pretty popular among some people, but I'm not a fan. Next up, Bailey's. This is an Irish cream liqueur. Bailey's is not really something you'd normally drink just straight up by itself. Usually it's a component of drinks. I know people who drink Bailey's on the rocks, and I've tried it. It's fine. It's going up here on B tier. It's fairly low alcohol content, so it's not like you're going to be out there drinking Bailey's to get smashed. And if you did, because of how sweet it is, you'd have one wicked hangover the next day. but it's fine. It's versatile, and it pairs well with a lot of things in cocktails. I got no beef at Bailey's. They do these different specialized limited runs of their product every once in a while. Like I remember they did a strawberry cream product. I tried that. It was decent. Tasted like strawberry milk. Here's I think this is Johnnie Walker Black Label. I wanted to check that before I make a ruling. Yes. Okay, that's what this is. I've never tried Johnnie Walker Black. That is Scotch whiskey. And I've heard good things about it. I wonder how much it costs. It's going to be upper shelf, so it's going to be expensive. Oh, it's not that expensive. Maybe I'm thinking of the blue label. It says $40 American for black. I must be thinking of blue. They have different labels for the different tiers of quality, essentially. Where is it? Just give me a price. Nope. Give me a price. This is the one I was thinking of. This quick search. Johnnie Walker Blue Label Scotch Whiskey between $150 and $180 American. Yeah, this is the upper tier one I was thinking of. Black is a little bit lower label, but I still haven't tried it. I meaning to. But I'm not a huge whiskey drinker. I do like Japanese whiskey, and none of those are on the list here, which is a shame. I do have some good recommendations for Japanese whiskeys. And speaking of whiskey, we have Jack Daniels. Jack Daniels. Jack Daniels is going on D tier. It's going to go above Jaeger. The base Jack Daniels tastes like molten lava to me. It's just burning pain. I know people who shoot Jack. Wouldn't recommend it unless you don't like the lining of your throat. Some other products from Jack Daniels is a little more tolerable, like their Tennessee Honey is good mixed and stuff. And like a ginger ale and Jack Daniels is okay, but straight up I don't enjoy it. it's pain. Oh, next up we got the Captain Morgan. Captain Morgan, this is just their generic spiced rum in a giant, was it 2 liter? Is that a 2 liter jug? Captain Morgan is a pretty economical rum. Captain Morgan is fine mixed in stuff, but straight up it's burning. It's going to be similar like Smirnoff, and again, oh, I don't see Absolute. It's a shame. Absolute would go here on the low C tier as well. But the base Captain Morgan product is pretty mid to me. Like, paired and stuff, it's fine. I could shoot it and it'll burn a bit. It's alright. For a sipping rum, definitely not there. And likewise, the Captain Morgan white rum, I think I've tried it once. It's going to go here too. It's pretty meh. The Captain Morgan Black, which isn't on this list, is pretty decent. As you go up in tiers for their catalog and more expensive stuff, it's a lot more manageable when it comes to sipping. Like, it's not on the list here, but Captain Morgan Private Stock, which is like their upper tier sipping rum, that's really good. That's one of my favorites. I'd rate that up here on probably high A tier, but it's not. And one of my favorite products of the catalog for Captain Morgan's that they don't make anymore, unfortunately, is their dark spiced rum Tattoo. And that was really popular in the 2000s-ish, mid-2000s. And I remember seeing it everywhere, and they just discontinued it. It's a shame because it was really good. It was a strong, dark rum, but it had a really kind of perfumey spice to it. I have a bottle of it in my cupboard that is maybe about a third full, and someone I know really likes that, so I only really bust that out if he happens to be nearby. But I've looked, you can't find it on the shelves. They just don't make it. It's a shame. The Captain Morgan Black product they make is not on par with Tattoo. I've yet to find something that's similar in taste. But yeah, the mid to upper tier products from the Captain Morgan's catalog, they're not on here. They'd rank much higher than the generic stuff. Next up, we have Pinnacle Vodka. I can't tell if this is their base product or one of their flavored ones. I think this is their regular version. And I've tried Pinnacle Vodka. It's fine. It's going to go up here probably on C tier. If it was the Pinnacle whipped cream flavored one, that would go a bit higher because they have a whole ton of flavors. And I think for simplicity's sake, they haven't included flavors on the tier list here. But it's fine. It's French, that's right. Next up, we have sort of a more unique product on here. We've got rum chata. And if you've ever had certain types of Hispanic or Mexican or South American food, you may have seen something called an horchata. And that's like this cinnamon rice milk drink, like a chilled rice milk drink. It's very good. It has a nice flavor, kind of a rich cinnamony flavor. Rum chata is a product that's meant to mimic that. So it's a cream liqueur based product, kind of like a Bailey's, but it's flavored with cinnamon, and the actual alcohol comes from rum. And I've tried this one. It's good. It's going to go probably on upper B tier. It has these kind of interesting white glass bottles. And it's good mixed in things, and it's pretty decent chilled and on the rocks as well. That's a good product. I have some in my cupboard, but it's been in there for several years, so I don't know if it's still good. Next up on the alcohol tier list, we've got Kraken. Kraken is a dark rum, kind of akin to Sailor Jerry's or the Morgan line. But Kraken is a bit more flavorful to me. It's going to go up here on, I'll put it on lower A tier. To me, Kraken functions as a mixer pretty well, but it's decent enough to drink straight to. It's got a bit of a kick to it, so it's not super smooth. But it's good. I'd pick Kraken over everything else in the rum category, with rum being my favorite type of liquor. But in my opinion, it functions best as a mixer, and you could sip it too. Wouldn't be my first choice, like I said, but it's fine. Of the kind of dark spiced rums, it's my go-to. There's another one that's not on the list here that someone introduced me to for rums, and it's, where is it? Jonah's Curse. Let me swing this over here. Jonah's Curse looks like this. It's a black spiced rum. Similar, comparable product to Kraken. And also really good mixed. You could drink it straight too. Again, it's got a bit of a punch to it, but it's good. both Jonah's Curse and Kraken, I'd say I'd recommend to someone who wants to get into rums over the Morgan's line for like the kind of entry level stuff. I think I still have a thing of Jonah's Curse. That's a good one. And the next one here, this is Admiral. I can't read it. I've seen this product before, so I know what it is. It's a competitor knockoff version of Captain Morgan's. It looks very similar. You have this captain-looking guy with his leg up on a ship or something, much like the Captain Morgan guy. Oh, let me see. It's gonna bug me if I can't think of the name. It's Admiral something. Admiral Nelson? Is it Nelson? Let me see if I can find it here. Yes, I think that's what it is. It's hard to tell because the picture is pretty small, but the color scheme looks similar. Yeah, I think it's this product, Admiral Nelson. Basically, again, meant to be kind of a generic knockoff competitor to Morgan's. I've never tried it. I've seen it on the shelf. I imagine it tastes about the same. Next up, we got Bacardi. This is white rum. Bacardi's gonna be low tier for me. Bacardi is like the Smirnoff of rums. It's fine in stuff as an ingredient in cocktails. Straight up or shot, it will burn pretty bad. It's not the worst tasting, and it's got a different flavor than something like the spiced rums like Morgan's, but not my first go-to. In fact, I generally try and avoid shooting rum. Because of the sugar content, since rum is typically made from sugarcane or molasses, it's going to catch up to you fast, and because of the sugar content, has the potential to give you a hangover, a bad hangover for rum. So I generally don't shoot it. But we'll leave this here. Pretty mid. Next up, we got Fireball. And I had some comments on Twitter about Fireball. Fireball is whiskey, but it's cinnamon-infused whiskey. So it's a bit different in flavor than some other ones. I think Fireball as an ingredient mixed in cocktails is fine. I wouldn't go out of my way to drink it on its own because it tends to be a little bit burny. But interestingly enough, when it comes to shots, or even sipping to some extent, very cold, chilled Fireball is very good, I've noticed. If you were to drink it or shoot it warm, it wouldn't taste good. It'd be pretty gross. But I've seen at some bars, and maybe this is a thing in the States, but I've seen some bars have these cooler dispensers that have basically a fifth run through a cooling unit. And so when they dispense out shots for people, it's super chilled Fireball. And that's actually really good. So I'm going to split the difference and put Fireball in C tier. That's not what I wanted to do. Well, that's going to just completely uncollapse all the stuff that I hid. Okay, that's fine. We were here in the tier list. So let me do this. Everything that we're yet to rank, I'm going to move into do not drink. Because all this other stuff I had hidden. And there's a bunch of duplicates and other stuff here. So just ignore the stuff down here on the bottom. Because I clicked the wrong button and accidentally went back. It dumped everything out. And I don't want to move everything into the bottom of the tier list again. So for the remainder of the ranking here, I'm just going to rank these last ones and then we'll wrap up. I'm not going to have time to do the last one I wanted to do, which is ice cream. So we'll move that into a future stream. Then I can probably talk it more at length about it and not have to rush. Because I've got to jump off in a little bit here. But the next one to rank, we have, this is Cuervo, Jose Cuervo. I think this is the generic, basic one. Yes. This is Jose Cuervo Especial. It's pretty low tier. I do like tequila. Haven't really discussed it much here on the channel, but I do like tequila a lot. It tends to be an acquired taste, and some people I know have had some bad run-ins with tequila. I understand that. My favorite brands of tequila are not going to be on this list, really, aside from Patron down here. But I've tried some really good reposados and some good sipping tequilas that are going to spend and cost a little more, but they're going to be much better than something like lower tier versions of Cuervo and whatnot. Because bad tequila will definitely punch you in the face. It's usually a function of how much it burns. But we'll put that one here. Again, maybe I will put together a sipping alcohol tier list because it would look very different than this. It's a lot of work, so I'll think about it. Next up, we got Kalua. Kalua is a liqueur. I'm pretty sure that's Kalua. I recognize the red and yellow bottle. Yeah, okay. Kalua is not something you drink straight. I've never talked to someone who would drink it straight because it's thick and kind of syrupy. But as an ingredient paired with stuff, Kalua is pretty decent. I don't like coffee normally. In fact, I don't like the flavor of coffee in anything. But for Kalua, being paired with other more mellow ingredients tends to work out pretty well. One of my favorite types of cocktails that I'd rank up on the S tier if we were doing cocktails is a White Russian. And a White Russian is vodka, heavy cream, and Kalua. So you get sort of this creamy, slightly coffee flavored drink. And White Russians are delicious. So I'm going to put Kalua on C tier. It's hard to rank because the rest of these are things you normally just drink straight up, and Kalua is an ingredient. You don't drink liqueurs straight up normally. I'll put it up below Fireball. That's hard to rank. For ranking based on ingredients, it'd rank probably fairly high. But it's a weird inclusion on a tier list like this. I guess Bailey's is a liqueur, but you can drink Bailey's straight. You wouldn't drink Kalua straight up. Next up, we have Larceny. Larceny is, I want to say whiskey or bourbon. Yeah, I think it's a bourbon. I have had Larceny in things. I've never tried it straight before, so I'm going to put it up here on C tier. It's got a bit of a punch to it. Kind of smoky like most bourbons, but not quite as fiery and painful as something like a Jack Daniels or a Jim Beam. Shame there's no Bullet. Bullet whiskey and bourbon is pretty decent. I would rank that probably in B tier if it was on the list here. Really good in old fashions. That's primarily what I use bourbon for. Old fashions are one of my favorite drinks. But as we sort of round out the tier list here, we have another rum. This is one I haven't had in a while for several noteworthy reasons. We got Malibu. Malibu is a coconut rum. And Malibu, I'm going to put on low... Oh, not back. Put a little B tier. This one is deceptive. And I think it's probably caught people off guard. I know it did for me. Unlike some of the other rums here, especially the spiced rums and things like Morgan's, Malibu is deceptively smooth and sweet. It tastes really good. It's basically like a sweet coconut flavored, almost like a liqueur from how sweet it is. But it's a flavored rum, and it's very easy to drink too much of it. And that's why I say it's a little dangerous. As an ingredient in cocktails, like your tropical type stuff or like a Mai Tai, it's great. You can put Malibu in a lot of stuff and it'll improve the flavor. Drinking it straight up is not a good idea because it doesn't taste necessarily that strong, and it's kind of just sweet, almost like a juice. But like any other hard liquor on this list, it will sneak up on you. So you might say, oh, I could do several shots of Malibu and it's fine, doesn't taste bad. And then it will hit you later like a freight train, and you will not be a happy camper. I may or may not know from personal experience, but as a product, it's fine. I would just use it as an ingredient and not 2 shots of Malibu. You could just be prepared. And they have a bunch of different other flavors I've never tried. Like I think there's a passion fruit. I think there's a pineapple. But the straight up white bottle is coconut, I believe. Yeah, well, technically is a Caribbean rum with coconut liqueur. Yeah, that explains why it's so sweet. 21% though, compared to other hard alcohols, it has the alcohol content of a liqueur, I guess. Yeah, I put that up on B tier with a caveat next to it. Be careful with Malibu. Next up, we got Jameson. Jameson is Irish whiskey. Yeah, just making sure. Jameson's good. Putting Jameson up here on B tier. I think I'm gonna put it above Makers. I'm gonna drop Rum Chata down. I don't think I could justifiably put that higher than these other ones. It's good, but I would drink Southern Comfort, Jameson, and Makers over a Rum Chata. Rum Chata's gonna be more of a dessert type thing or paired with something else. So I'm gonna drop that down. Shouldn't be at the top of B tier. But Jameson's good. The base tier one is gonna be a little more smooth compared to other types of whiskeys. I guess American whiskey like a Jack Daniels. I have tried a couple upper tier flavors of Jameson that's meant to be more like a regular sipping Irish whiskey. Those are also good. Good on the rocks. Good paired with other stuff. In general, I have a pretty high opinion of Irish whiskey. Teeling is one of my favorite brands. I've tried a couple of the Teelings. There's one that I've been trying to find. I've tried a long time ago, but I can't remember the name. Irish whiskeys tend to be a little more kind of sweet and smooth flavored as opposed to smoky. And I do find it interesting that there's not a lot of Scotch on here. There's kind of regular whiskeys, but Scotch like a Macallan or a Cavalan would be pretty rankable. I do like some Scotches, but they're not on here, so I can't rank them. The last one to rank, again, it's just I dumped everything in here because I accidentally spilled everything out of the rest of the tier list. We've got Patron. Patron Silver specifically with this green label. Patron is a tequila, and I know it's a mid to upper shelf tequila that a lot of celebrities and big names tend to tout as, you know, their favorite when it comes to, you know, drinking Patron in the clubs and whatnot. But I would say Patron is good. it's expensive, and I've talked this over with people before, in that I feel like Patron is trading off its brand recognition as opposed to just straight up quality. That being said, it is higher quality than some of the other stuff like lower tier Cuervo and cheap tequilas. So I'm gonna put Patron Silver up here on A. But my favorite comparable type of tequila on that tier is a product called El Pedrino, and I was introduced to that one. It looks very similar. It's a Blanco tequila, so it's clear, and it comes in a bottle. Looks a lot like Patron Silver. I think the El Pedrino is meant to be like a competitor, and the reason why I found it was because they were out of silver one day when I was at the store, and the person there recommended the El Pedrino as like a substitute. So I picked it up because it was about $15 cheaper than the Patron Silver, and it was almost identical in flavor. To me, it was actually a little more smooth, and it was really good. So I don't buy Patron Silver anymore because it's more expensive. El Pedrino, I can show that one off too. This stream's basically turned into Raku advertises for random alcohol brands. Yeah, this is what it looks like. Similar type of bottle. It's a Blanco agave tequila. Essentially, it's the same product as Patron, but it's much cheaper and very similar in taste, almost identical in taste, a little more smooth. So if anyone watching this is a tequila fan and doesn't feel like shelling out for Patron Silver, which is around 40-ish US dollars. I meant to compare the price. For $7.50, gonna be about 40. Yeah, $37 to $40. And the $7.50 for El Pedrino was $29. I've seen it on sale too. So you're looking at about a $10 difference in price for not a real discernible difference in quality or flavor or distinction. Again, I think Patron is primarily a brand recognition type deal. So there's other stuff out there that doesn't have the brand recognition that's just as good. And I feel like you could probably say that for a lot of these products. Like, you could probably find some good lower tier equivalents to the Grey Goose that are going to be as good but not as expensive. So my recommendation is always just to shop around and check out other things, because you might find something that you like as much as something that's really expensive for a lot cheaper. Or read reviews. Reviews are usually a good indicator of that as well. But I think that'll do it for this tier list. Again, all the stuff here was pulled into the never tried or don't drink because I either don't drink it or it was a duplicate. And then when I accidentally backed out, it uncollapsed everything. So for the folks viewing the archives of this particular stream, you could see at the beginning where I separated it out. But this will be the final tier list for alcohols. If I end up posting this one or saving it, I'll clean it up and get rid of all this other stuff. Interestingly enough, nothing on here ranked S tier for me. And I think that's mostly because the stuff that I would rank as some of my favorite hard liquors and whatnot to drink just weren't included. Absent from the tier list would be things like we talked about at the beginning with hard ciders and seltzers. Cider would be S tier. Seltzers would probably be somewhere on A, maybe lower A tier. And there's a couple other types of hard products like hard sodas I've seen. And you have wine coolers and other things that are probably not going to rank as high. But I'll continue to look around, and maybe we can do an addendum version of this particular tier list in the future. If I can find something else that's more comprehensive and or make my own, then maybe I'll do a follow-up, you know, like a bougie alcohol tier list or something. We'll see. I think next time we sit down to do tier lists, we're going to probably focus on non-food stuff. We'll move on to some other topics. There's other things that are ranked. I know Wazi has sent me one on game controllers, which is a really cool tier list. But I will work on curating another set for the future. The next chill stream is probably going to be the media share one I've been talking about for a while. I don't know if that's going to be next week, but when we eventually get back together for a tier list one, it'll be a different focus than food. I would say for folks that are tuning into this particular archive later, like I said before, if you find tier lists on the site here that you want me to rank or talk about, then just send it to me in the comments or over on Twitter, and I'll put them together in the queue for stuff that we cover here on stream. People have done that in the past, and that we've got some interesting discussions. So by all means, if you have suggestions, let me know. But I think we will go ahead and wrap up here. We'll have to do ice cream in the future. It wasn't an incredibly exhaustive one, but I won't have time to finish this one. So we'll go ahead and wrap up the stream here. Once again, thanks to the folks who stopped by to hang out. This one was interesting, a bit more of a degenerate tier list compared to some of our other ones on here, but that's okay. It was fun to talk about alcohol, and maybe we'll revisit in the future. But once again, thanks for hanging out. I will catch you guys in the next stream, and have a good evening.